Welcome to San Mateo County Today. Conversations with government leaders throughout San Mateo County. Here's your host, Linda Morrisey.
Hi, and welcome to San Mateo County Today. We are thrilled to have with us today Jeff G., the mayor of Redwood City. You were with us about a year ago, and we're welcoming you back. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be back, Linda.
Great, great. I want to jump right into some of the issues I think that we actually talked about last time, and we can just sort of do a continuation from there. Growth and development continues to be a major issue in Redwood City. And you shared with me, it sounds like there are a lot of opinions out there about what the right level of growth is, ranging from stop all construction now to, hey, let's get Google into Redwood City. So I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about your views on what the right level of growth is for Redwood City.
Now, one of the things that is challenging about how long planning takes is that the vision for our city, especially our downtown, started about 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it takes a lot of effort. And that started with a community effort to say, what do we want our city to be when we grow up? We wanted to have life, vibrancy, vitality, but we also wanted a mix of uses nearby. Jobs, housing, services, entertainment, so that when people came home, they didn't really need to have a car. They can live, they can walk to work, they can walk to the bank, the dry cleaners, things like that. And that's what is happening in Redwood City. We've been trying to combine housing and jobs all together. The suburbs don't help with traffic because people need a car. And so we've had to blend office buildings and high-rise or more dense housing to really get that mix together to have that combination. Stopping all projects right now doesn't help. Inviting big tech companies doesn't help. It's that combination of both. And one of the important things also about Redwood City is that we have a number of startups. And so what we're trying to do is create a mix of types of sizes of office buildings. People don't start startups to stay small. They start startups to innovate and grow, and we don't want them to grow and then have to leave Redwood City.
Okay.
So it's that balance that we're trying to create of having garage-sized spaces, and then they can grow to the next size and then grow into the next size.
Okay, got it. Just jumping off from that a little bit, one thing that's I think on everybody's mind lately is water, and do we have enough of it? And you shared with me some interesting statistics. I'm going to ask you to educate us a little bit about this. You mentioned that the city is well below its water guarantee, and I also read that the city's water use forecast projects that we'll stay well below our contractual supply until at least 2030. So start by educating us on water guarantee and contractual supply. What does that all mean?
Okay. Redwood City buys our water from the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission.
Okay.
San Francisco PUC gets their water from the Yosemite Valley. About 100 years ago, someone figured out after the earthquake, we don't have enough water around here. So they got federal approval to build a dam in the Yosemite Valley and pump water 200 miles so that we have water in San Francisco and the peninsula. We have a water guarantee from the SFPUC of about 12,000 acre-feet of water, but we had been above that for many, many years prior to this development going on. So one of the key things that the city did was to look ahead and plan, and their foresight is just incredible in adopting and creating recycled water. That vision was to be below our Hetch allotment by the year 2020, and we didn't meet it, we beat it. It fell under that allotment in 2011. Most of Redwood Shores is on the east side of 101. Many of the homeowners associations are using recycled water for landscape irrigation. The port is using it for industrial uses. And that purple pipe is going to be coming to the west side of 101 next year. We're currently in permit with Caltrans to bring a pipe over underneath the freeway to the west side. And many of the projects that are being built right now are dual plumbed, such that when the purple pipe goes past their property, they can connect to it to irrigate their landscape and to flush toilets. That, along with conservation, replacing grass fields with synthetic turf, and our low-flow toilet giveaway, we have tremendously reduced our water usage from a peak of over 13,000 acre-feet of water to a little over 9,000 today. Our residents, because of the drought, are using about 58 gallons of water a day per resident. And as we bring that purple pipe over and connect projects like Stanford, Kaiser, office buildings, and these housing projects, my estimate is that we will continue to reduce our use of clean drinking water from the Yosemite Valley and be smarter about how we use the water that we do have.
That's amazing.
It's incredible, and we're the only city in San Mateo County doing what we're doing with regard to how we use water.
Yeah, a lot of foresight. You mentioned 58 gallons per resident per day. What would the normal be?
Well, back in 1999, we were using about 180 gallons per resident per day.
Wow.
And so it's come down tremendously. And again, it's a lot of different technology. It's how we use water, the low flow toilets, and not dumping it on the ground.
Yeah.
It's made a huge, huge difference.
Right. Another impact of all the growth, of course, is parking. And what's the city doing to mitigate all the parking? I mean, obviously this is a huge issue all across the Bay Area,
Sure.
but what kinds of things is Redwood City doing given all the growth you're experiencing as well?
One of the things is all the projects that are being built have parking in them. And that's something different than projects that were built 10, 20, 30 years ago. When you look at some of the projects that exist right now, some of the office buildings, and even some of the retail buildings, they don't have any parking spaces with them. So all the new projects have parking. They're unbundled in some case, where that if you rent an apartment, you have to pay more to rent a parking space. Other projects are going to be looking to rely on Caltrain for their workers. And the different dynamic is that people are coming to work using a whole different vernacular of getting to work. Sidecar, Chariot, Uber Pool, Lift Line, those are things that when I was growing up, I had no clue they were coming. But with the parking that's being built now, the other part of it is that on nights and weekends, that parking will be made available to the public. So crossing 900, the box development, there are 900 parking spaces underneath that building that will be available to public nights and weekends. And so that will be a huge contribution to our parking, as well as when construction completes, because the construction impacts are disruptive. There's no question about it. But when construction is over, my estimate is there'll be plenty of parking for not only the people working and living downtown, but for people coming to visit. But right now, it's a mess. I understand. I haven't figured out how to do construction without noise, dirt, and dust yet. But if I do figure it out, I'll package it and I'll retire.
Yeah, there you go. So when a company comes in, there are parking requirements that you...
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the new worker really doesn't want a car anymore. They don't want to commute alone. And that's where these other companies are taking advantage of that. They rather not sit alone in a car driving for 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
They rather relax, listen to music, do emails, text, or whatever. And that's why these other companies have taken advantage of the market opportunity.
Right. Probably that car is hard for some of us to let go, but our new generation coming in, I think, really gets it.
Absolutely.
That's great. Speaking of cars and such, transportation, tell us a little bit about what's going on with the 101 Woodside Interchange.
Very exciting project. We are in the EIS, Environmental Impact Study, phase of the project. This project will replace the 101 Woodside Road Interchange. I've always said that interchange is so old, it is the oldest interchange in San Mateo County, and it has earned the right to be replaced. It has so many different angles in which cars come into,
Right.
and it just backs up traffic on 101, it backs up traffic into Redwood City. We have a couple different designs that will improve traffic flow in that whole intersection and into the city. We are going to start design work next year, and hopefully the construction will be complete by 2021, 2022. The hard part of why it takes so long is that we have to keep the interchange in operation. We just can't close it down and build it.
Right.
And so that makes it take a little longer, but we've come up with some very creative interchange designs that will make traffic flow a lot better, make traffic a lot safer, and connect the west side of Redwood City with the bay side of Redwood City.
So can you describe for us what that interchange might look like in the future?
It's a very creative and innovative design. It's only been done maybe a dozen times in California. It's called the diverging diamond, which reduces the number of left turns you have to make and the number of stops one has to make. So it really improves traffic flow tremendously. And I have some drawings here to show you and the viewers.
Okay.
And there's only about a dozen designs like that in the state of California.
Okay.
So this is very new, very different, very innovative, but it's really designed to move cars and trucks and vehicles and improve safety.
Last time we talked a little bit about affordable housing, and I'd like to expand that conversation this time. Redwood City, is in such a great spot on the peninsula, and I know they can command market rates, and would love to do that. But how do you balance the desire for market rates for your housing with the very real needs of people that simply can't afford to live here? And I'm not talking about an impoverished, community. I'm talking about people that have good jobs, but just can't afford to live here.
Yeah, that's such a hard answer to such a hard question. We didn't get here overnight, and it wasn't Redwood City creating it by ourselves.
True.
It really is a regional challenge for all of us. I like to believe that we are doing our part to create housing for the region. Our vision was to create housing and jobs together, and we continue to do that. Some of the different things that we're doing in terms of promoting affordability at all levels. In the days of redevelopment, we purchased a piece of property on Bradford Street. We've just released an RFQ, request for qualifications, to affordable housing developers to build 70 to 120 units of affordable housing on that site. That RFQ is in circulation right now. Council has approved a program called Fire Safety First. We've had some very devastating fires in our city. A couple years ago, almost 200 units of apartments were burned down. Yes. Many of them were affordable, and they haven't come back yet. So what we've done is we've put in place a fire sprinkler retrofit ordinance. In 5 years, it'll come into effect. But what we're doing is we're offering low interest loans to have those units retrofitted. And if those owners agree to hold their rents down, we will forgive that loan in 5 years. So an incentive to look long-term rather than just at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. We need to take a short break, and I'd like to continue this conversation when we come back. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, welcome back. We were speaking about affordable housing with Mayor Jeff G. from Redwood City, an important and interesting discussion, and I think you have a bit more to say about it. Why don't you go ahead and share more about the definition of affordable housing and how we're addressing it?
Well, between the Bradford Street property, our Fire Safety First, and a number of other things, it is a challenge on the peninsula. Yeah. At least the key thing is we're still talking about average median income in San Mateo County and targeting 30, 60, and 80% of average median income for our affordable housing. Okay. In San Francisco, or city north of us, they're having the debate right now on affordable housing, and is it 120 or 150% of average median income? Wow. There's a huge need here, we get it, and council's worked very hard. Some of the other things that we're doing is we're setting aside about $1 million a year for our affordable housing fund from our utility user tax. It costs about $250,000 to $300,000 to build a new housing unit. And so $1 million isn't a lot in year one, but in 5 years, we anticipate $5 million. We're helping fund Habitat for Humanity, their 4th project in Redwood City, about 20 units of ownership housing in downtown Redwood City. We're looking at our Partnership Redwood City program, so when a developer, builder, or employer comes to our city, they'll contribute to helping house workers and our residents. So a lot of different things working together. It doesn't help right now at the moment today, but we anticipate in 2 years, 3 years, we will make a difference, as well as encouraging our neighboring cities to do their fair share. Belmont, St. Carlos, Menlo Park, Palo, we all need to do our fair share to make sure we contribute to housing our residents and our communities. Yeah, it's a joint effort, definitely. It absolutely is. We didn't get here by ourselves. We're not going to fix it by ourselves. Right.
One thing I've personally noticed, and I'm sure it's true, is there appear to be a lot of areas where Stanford is moving into Redwood City, and it seems like the city has a pretty strong relationship with the Stanford hospitals and clinics. Can you talk about that relationship, and might they be expanding even further in Redwood City?
Absolutely. Stanford's worked very hard with our community for about 5 years, and last year we approved Stanford in Redwood City. That is about 1.5 million square feet that Stanford could build over 20 years near the medical office and clinics property. They own the Ampex site, basically.
Oh, okay.
In exchange for that approval, they provided a number of community benefits. And in phase one of the things that we'll be creating and giving to the community is a new park in our Friendly Acres neighborhood, an area that is so short on parks and open space. Their phase one is probably going to be about 500,000 to 600,000 square feet. They are planning to break ground either later this year or early next year. And they're looking to provide not only programs for Stanford here in Redwood City, but programs for our community, like our Graduate School of Business Boot Camp, like our speaker series downtown, like the park. These are things that we're hoping that when someone comes to Redwood City, that they'll be engaged and be a partner in our community, and they're a great example of that.
That's great. Do we have any other examples of that besides Stanford right now?
We have a number of different companies. I was at Hoover School not too long ago, and a company, AbbVie, Pharmaceutical and Pharmacyclics, adopted and rebuilt their library. And when I showed up for the ribbon cutting, there were 80 people, 80 volunteers from the company putting books back on the bookshelves, ribbon cutting, painting, doing a lot of things. And again, that's what we want in our city. We need partners. We can't do it all by ourselves. So we don't only want builders and developers, we want employers and their employees engaged in our community, whether it's Project Read, whether it's adopting a school, whether it's cleaning up the community. That's really what it takes these days to work together.
Yeah, right, great. You mentioned to me a few days ago that the city's new budget has a lot of good news. So it sounds like there are new services being added, a large capital improvement program, all without raising taxes or asking voters to approve a bond. Okay, tell us how that works.
Again, I have to give credit to the councils that came before. One of the great things we've done is the voters and our council before approved a utilities user tax. So it's a little 5% tax on your phone bill and your PG&E bill. But the key thing is that incremental revenue stream was dedicated to capital improvements. Park renovations, fire station renovations, library renovations. And that generates about $9 to $10 million a year, along with planning to replace our infrastructure, sewer and water, because people forget. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't get old and needs to be replaced. And so combination of a utility user tax and planning for infrastructure replacement, we're able to do capital improvements over the next year that are going to touch every single neighborhood in the city. From street resurfacing on Whipple Avenue to mechanical and air conditioning at our community centers, to new libraries, to our 50/50 sidewalk repair programs coming back. So if you've got tree roots that are breaking your sidewalk, we'll partner with the resident right in front and replace that sidewalk. A lot of different things where we've been constantly looking ahead and planning for the future. Unfortunately, other cities have not had the great fortune to look ahead, and they're looking at $200, $300, $400 million bond measures to fix potholes and repair sewer lines and things like that. And that hurts a lot because you're paying a lot in the future to pay off that debt. But we've been paying and planning as we go, so we don't have to take on that debt.
A lot of foresight.
A lot of foresight, and a lot of it goes to those council members that served before I joined the council.
And certainly since you've been there as well. And you mentioned other services as well besides capital improvements? The
other side of it is on the budget side, we're adding more officers to our downtown. We're adding more library hours to our Sheaburg and to our Fair Oaks Library. We're adding another day of street sweeping to all of our neighborhood street sweeping programs, adding more services back, enhancing our communication program, probably bringing back a physical piece of paper newsletter in the mail. A lot of different things to really, it's really nice to be able to bring services back versus 5 years ago when I joined the council. It was a whole different world. We're looking at how can we do without. And now we can bring back services for our residents.
That's got
a great feeling. It's a great opportunity.
Great, good. I think one of the really fun byproducts of this growth and getting to come back is the thriving downtown that you have. And I know that at Courthouse Square has officially kicked off their summer events. So what are some of the fun events you're looking forward to this summer?
It's always amazing on a Friday night to go down to our Friday night concerts. We're not a secret anymore. People from our entire Bay Area region come for our Friday night concerts, and it's amazing that some of the most popular concerts are our tribute bands. But we have our Thursday night movies. Through our Redwood City Improvement Association, we have video mapping on Tuesday nights where the face of the old courthouse becomes a video wall, and there's a video show at 8:30 or 9:30, or adjust the hours as daylight savings time.
Right.
Great opportunity to bring people to downtown. Our celebrations kick off with our Salsa Festival in the fall, Fiesta Patrias. A lot of celebrations as we hit the summer and go into the fall. But it's not all in downtown also. We have concerts out in Redwood Shores. We just had our first one on Sunday night. And at Stanford Park, on Wednesday nights, concerts in the park. They kicked off this past week, and run all the way through the end of August. So there's a lot happening in Redwood City. Shakespeare's coming. The Redwood Symphony played last Saturday night. People want them to play longer. So there's just a lot of different activities, all free to the community, all supported by private businesses and private sponsorship. Again, going back to that comment earlier about being a partner in Redwood City and bringing all these services and events and fun things to do to our community and our residents.
That's great. Now, I understand that you'll be rotating through City Council, and your term as mayor ends in December of this year. Tell me about what some of your proudest accomplishments are in your term as mayor.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I caught you off guard with that one.
Well, I think getting Partnership Redwood City started is a great opportunity. Again, telling everybody and sharing with everybody, we want them engaged. You just can't come to our city, go to work, and then go home at night. We want you to be a partner. Our Fire Safety First program, our sprinkler retrofit program, no one in the state of California is doing anything like this. Innovation, creativity. Dealing with some of the decisions that councils have kind of put off for a while, like our hillside.
Hillside?
We had a hillside ordinance adopted. This is something that has been kind of hanging out there for a number of different years, 10, 20, 30 years. We finally dealt with it because it's getting harder to build, and the leftover spaces are up in our hills. So how do we address it consistently so that people that are there don't feel too impacted by someone who wants to build next to them or above them, and whoever buys a piece of property knows what the rules are. So that clarity we owe everybody. So one of the great things is that when I was honored to be selected as mayor, I came to our city manager and council with a list of things that I wanted to try to do in 2 years. And for the most part, we're getting them done.
Congratulations.
Which is a great feeling.
That's
and
wonderful.
It covers a lot of different things, from improving the flooding that in our Friendly Acres neighborhood, to Partnership Redwood City, to fire sprinklers, to just bringing back services and our senior shuttle. We just started a senior shuttle to bring our seniors down to our concerts and to a senior day in downtown. A lot of different new things for our city, and to be a part of that, it's just a great feeling.
That's wonderful. Okay. Is there anything else going on in Redwood City that we haven't touched on today that you'd like to share with our viewers?
There's a whole wide range of feelings about what's happening in Redwood City, from, how come it's changed so much from the days of the 50s and 60s to how come there isn't more going on. And the hard part is always trying to find that right balance. And I can guarantee you and everybody that's watching and listening that this council and those that are coming are going to work very hard to find that middle, whatever that means. And it's kind of a changing landscape constantly. And given that it takes 20 years to come up with great plans, we're planning now for 2035. And I know you have a young daughter who's about that right age. We're told by consultants they're the ones who are going to decide where their family's going to work and where their family's going to live and what that place is going to look like. So I'll need to talk to your daughter about what that looks like.
So when you talk about going out that far in the future, those conversations are actually starting right now?
We're going to have to begin those conversations in a little bit, but I've got to clean up the sidewalks and finish construction first so that we can learn from this experience and not repeat, but make it better. We're not quite there yet. Probably as these projects complete and we learn how people move around, how people park their cars, how people own cars, and if it's different, we can learn from it, or if it isn't different, we can learn from it. So I don't want to get going too fast until we can take a look at some of the lessons and learn from it so we can build upon it.
Okay, great. Any projects that are just wrapping up now and will be opening soon? I see a few less cranes. I just wanted to kind of touch on that real quickly before we leave.
The Crossing 900 project, their tenant should be moving in later this fall, around October if I remember that correctly.
Okay.
The parking garage will open later this summer. The cranes that are up now will be coming down in August, so those housing projects should be opening the first part of next year. And so then we'll start to get a good feel about how it's all working. And really, is everyone needing a car? Some people don't. I mean, they want to go car light. They don't want to have a car. And so we'll learn from that. Do we need to make adjustments? And the other key thing that's coming is new parking equipment. Our parking meters, people complain a lot.
Oh, okay.
They're 8 years old. And then the challenge with technology, it grows old really quickly.
Yeah.
8 years may not seem a long time or may seem a long time to others. But I just remind everybody, 8 years ago was when the iPhone came out.
Oh, there you go.
So I don't know too many people running around with the iPhone 1. I think everyone's waiting with bated breath for iPhone 7, but that shows how fast technology is changing.
Yeah.
So by October this year, we should have new parking meters downtown that are a lot easier, more reliable. And all of our parking garages will be retrofitted with new parking equipment that's more reliable and more contemporary and more automated.
Got it.
So it'll make everything a lot easier.
Okay. Great analogy for us all with the iPhone. We obviously all can relate. Well, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. There's so many exciting things going on in Redwood City, and it was great to get an update. And I hope you can come back again in the future and we can continue the discussion.
Sounds good. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time on San Mateo County Today.